There's a few of us. How lucky am I to be the presenter of the last awesome award tonight? So, to keep you on your toes, I have a quick question for you, a quiz in fact. If I was to ask you which of the following have the greatest impact on your well-being and your longevity, which would you answer is the top one? Cancer, smoking, drugs, obesity, air pollution. Well, in fact, it's none of those. There's a great deal of evidence around the world at the moment that tells us that it's in fact lack of meaningful social connections in our life that is in fact the greatest impactor on our health and well-being. So social isolation is insidious and is becoming more and more insidious in our modern day culture. And that was the reason that Community Centres SA, which is the peak body for 108 community centres, and the 35,000 people each week that come to community centres all around the state, introduced the Social Cure for Isolation Award. It's something we believe incredibly strongly in. Community centres and many other organisations around the state work so hard in connecting people up and addressing the insidious nature of social isolation. So we are so delighted. We in fact received over 60 nominations for the award, which I think is testimony to how big this issue is. Congratulations to all of the nominees. Fantastic bunch of entrances, and I'm delighted to announce the finalist. You can't clap quite yet. Marion MUGs, MarionLIFE Community Services.
Who would like to say a few words?
Wow, I don't think anyone's more shocked than us tonight. We were in such good company. We are a small representation today of a bigger group that meets every Monday morning. But we are all truly honoured to be nominated for this award, genuinely, because we know most of those people that were also nominated, and they do incredible work, so thank you. The concept of Marion MUGs is really simple. It's just conversation and coffee. But the connections and friendships that are formed and that deepen each week are life-changing. Loneliness really is an epidemic and something all of our group have experienced, but we know that building connections is the answer. Marion MUGs now extends past Monday mornings for most of the people. And I want to especially thank Trevor and John over here, who started the group just together, but they've nurtured it into what it is today. And it's their wholehearted welcome that they give that brings people in and makes them stay. And yet our group is growing beyond the capacity of our community garden, that's for sure. So we'd like to thank Community Centres SA for this award. They give us incredible support at MarionLIFE, but more than that, they give our sector incredible support. So thank you. And we'd also like to thank the other sponsors who've made this night possible: 7 News, Southern Cross, Commonwealth Bank and the Hilton. And I'll leave you with these words from one of our other group members, Gary. He says that coming to Marion MUGs for him is better than finding a $100 bill on the ground. Thank you.
Good morning, Leighton. Good morning, Josh. Good morning, everyone.
Morning, Kylie.
when I see that reply, I get goosebumps. Still a year on. Leighton, you're the director at MarionLIFE. What did that award to Marion MUGs and to your centre?
It was really great to, I guess, to be recognised for what we all do as community centres in connecting people. Particular to our setting, I mean, the awards are on a Friday night, and you heard Lauren, our services director, talking then. So on the Monday, we were able to came back and tell our group, our participants, our community that they were winners. And not only that, they were state winners, which was sort of a huge thing to say. And I guess it just added a lot of excitement and pride in the group. And part of what I wanted to share about this morning is, I guess, you don't need an award to recognise what you do, but it did sort of let our participants know, a lot of them who were particularly socially isolated, that judged by others, you're actually worthy of a state award. And that kind of, it was kind of surreal, I suppose, and such a privilege to be able to share that with them and show the trophy. I don't know if you can see it on the screen, but
yes, we can.
So, so it was very encouraging. Yeah.
That's there in your screenshot behind you.
Yes, that's right. That's that's our Marion MUGs group, actually part of Neighbourhood Centres Week a couple of years ago, just sharing pancakes in the morning. So you can sort of, if I get out of the way of it, you can see some of the group there. So
yeah. And I had the honour of coming in, maybe it was a few weeks after the award, to give certificates to every member of Marion MUGs. We were surrounded by Tim Tams and cake and good cheer, and they were definitely winners are gritters. They, what I saw was just absolute, each individual person, came up and they told their story, and it was just such absolute pride and almost disbelief. I got a sense of that what they do has been recognised as being really meaningful and really valuable. It was a gorgeous morning.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Josh, hey, we're looking forward to seeing you again this year.
Yeah, it's good. Thanks for having me on today. And I'm so excited to have the Loneliness Cure Award version 2.0.
Yeah, that's right. So Josh, you're the partnerships manager of the awards program, which is a national program, in fact. Tell us a bit about the program, and also why, because I know you're for those of you that don't know Josh is a really positive, upbeat kind of chap. Why do you love coming to work each day? What's so awesome about the Community Achievement Awards?
Well, there's I'll answer the last part of that question first. Basically, the Community Achievement Awards are so special because they celebrate ordinary people doing extraordinary things, and that's what makes it really easy to come to work, because the people who are being nominated in the awards, they're usually just everyday people. Leighton is a great example of that. He's just doing what he's doing because he thinks it's great, and often people don't realise the impact that they have on others, and that's what we're trying to share those stories about. You might not think that you're doing anything special, but you talk to people that you're connected with in the community, they will say, oh, it's extremely special. Marion MUGs changed my life. So that's why it's easy, because we get the phone calls and the emails from those people who are so incredibly humble, but when you hear their story, it just blows you away. And so kind of the Community Achievement Awards, to answer the first part of their question now, Kylie, was started because a lot of awards programs, and back in the early 2000s, 2002, when it was started, a lot of award programs were about the highest level of achievement, and often really corporate business achievement. And so we wanted to bring something in that was, because we were award specialists already, that really celebrated those community stories, and that's how it was kind of born. And nationally it started 2002 in WA, Victoria, and New South Wales. And South Australia wasn't launched in 2010, but it's quickly become our biggest program in terms of combination of nominations and attendance to the gala dinner. And Leighton and Kylie can attest to that. There was 500 people there celebrating, and it was just a fantastic event to celebrate those community things in SA.
I've been to, I'm sure like many of you that are watching this morning, I've been to so many awards nights over my working life, and I think probably a lot of us have similar reactions sometimes to awards nights. It's kind of oh God, my husband would say, does that mean I have to iron a suit? You know, and they're kind of enjoyable, but they can get a bit long and a bit tedious, and you know, kind of that 10 o'clock time comes and everyone starts to feel a bit sleepy and, oh no, there's still another 5 awards to announce. But I have to say, the Community Achievement Awards are so different to that. They really are one continuous night of big smiles, Josh. They're so vibrant.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, they really are. There's a number of awards that are being celebrated over the course of the award program, isn't there? We're not the only award category.
That's right. There are a whole bunch of categories. There's 12 categories in total, and they do span different fields. And I think that's what makes the Loneliness Cure Award special, because Kylie, I can so clearly in my mind remember an email coming through from you. We've been discussing what an award category could look like for the community centres SA, what would get the best results to celebrate the community centres that would be applying. And I saw this come in, the Loneliness Cure Award, and I was like, oh, what does that mean? And so I learned a lot from you and from Kerry there, explaining, you know, and used the word insidious, and that's something I hadn't thought about before. And it was really eye-opening for me, thinking that I was a bit of an expert in what, you know, community was about. And it's nice to work with you guys and learn from you. That's been really special for me as well.
Thank you. Yeah, it has been a great journey, and I think we've built a great relationship with you guys who are running the awards program as a whole. Leighton, tell us a little bit about the process of applying. Like, I know, you know, because we spend a lot of time with centres, not only applying, not only supporting them to apply for this award, but all sorts of grants, you know, to help them kind of weave those words of magic such that the grant or the application really comes to life. But I know often centres kind of retreat into that, I'm too busy doing the doing, it's a bit too hard, you know, what we do isn't that special, we'll be up against lots of other much more amazing things. Tell us a little bit about the process you guys went through in thinking about putting in for an award, and how you got to, I guess, conceive of the project that you're going to nominate.
Well, firstly, what I'd say, if I was listening, what you do is special. So I hope people do recognise the value of what they bring to their communities. And I just want to echo Josh's comments that it's a chance to tell your story of what you do and document that. So the application isn't difficult itself. From memory, there was 5 questions. Each probably, you know, looking at a paragraph or so, just answering and articulating what we do. And I'm not sure if you offered again this year, Kylie, but you know, encouragement if people were thinking of applying was that Community Centres SA offered to help produce a little video, you know, with our project. And so, you know, irrespective of the outcome, that process for us to document what we do, to get some quotes from our participants and volunteers, and have a little video was amazing to be able to share, you know, who we are, and I guess take some encouragement from that as well. So and then to be able to go through, you know, there was I think a finalist and a semi-finalist and those sort of stages as well, and see some of the other groups that were recognised. So yeah, it certainly wasn't difficult. You know, I personally don't mind applying for grants and things like that, but in terms of level of arduousness, this is on the lower end, I can assure people. So, yeah.
Yeah, we didn't want to make it, you know, as you say, an arduous task to have to work through. And just before, you know, we chat more, I'll just remind everyone that's listening in too, as always in our online conversation series, I think this is our 7th or 8th now. Feel free to send in any questions online. You'll see at the bottom of your screen there was a Q&A. If you've got any questions about the award process, about the judging, anything you want to know, the dates, just send them through. Gary sitting... It
feels like so long ago.
back behind the screen to answer those, but also you've got Leighton and Boyd. Leighton, Boyd and Josh here to answer them. Josh, I did just mention the judging process. it's actually quite a, you know, a highly professional judging process, again, compared to many awards that I've been on where I've been involved in the process. I was really impressed with this
We were
one.
just saying how we do and we forgot.
Oh, thanks, Kylie. It's actually what
Jean's experience. What are we
Sorry,
getting
Josh,
from
I've just got someone coming through at the moment. Is that?
Yes, it's my my lovely co-worker and wife who's also on a
Oh, okay.
video meeting that we couldn't reschedule. So
No problems. That's okay.
if you want to throw to Leighton
I
first.
did. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Leighton, I think one of the questions I would love to ask you is what you actually did with the money. Well, first of all, what money did you get, and what did you do with it?
Yeah, that's right. So a nice you know, bonus to winning was there's $2,000 as a part of prize money for the award, which is very generous to for that to be given out. And for us, we do have plans to spend it. They've been put on hiatus with some of the things that have happened so far this year. But you can see in the picture behind me, we meet outdoors. And so we're looking at some potential options to improve that outdoor area. The table you can see is pretty full, so maybe looking at either extending or adding some table space. And we put up some umbrellas and things like that, but they can be a bit, I guess what I'm saying is we look maybe some shading and just sort of improving that area to cater for more people and make it more friendly depending on what the weather's like as well. So we're looking forward to that.
Which, you know, as we all know in centres, sometimes it's, you know, that most centres kind of just scrape through with a limited budget to run programs, and it's having a bit of that extra financial injection to do those kinds of things to make a space a bit more functional. And it's often not a large amount of money, is it, that can really change things. So I'm really excited. Hopefully next time I can pop down the road, because Marion MUGs is just down the road from Community Centres SA. I'll pop on down and maybe come and have a glass of wheel in the sunshine with you under the umbrella and the rest of Marion MUGs.
Yeah, a little story about the table that you can see behind me. That was actually donated by one of our community members who collected cans and bottles, which is something we can do in SA, Josh, to you know, raise funds, and you know, that did that over a number of years and donated that table. And just to, you know, going on from what you said, you know, resources are often pretty thin, so you know, that the sort of money we got for the prize money does allow us a bit of scope to to make some of those improvements, which often would have to be achieved in other ways. So.
That's a lot of cans and bottles.
Indeed, yes.
Josh.
Yeah.
Judging. We were talking about judging.
Yeah. So
talk us through the judging process.
It is quite a long process, and you know, you might recall the judging day itself is quite a big meeting in terms of there's usually 15 odd people in a big boardroom, and that's just the final part of the judging. The process actually starts 4 and even 6 weeks before that, you know, with Q&A on all the different nominations. Sorry, not Q&A, quality assurance on all the nominations to make sure, you know, that they've been completed, and we get in contact with the nominees to help them finish off if they need to. And then goes to expert judges, and they're experts in their field for each of those categories, that they, you know, make sure they're hitting all the criteria. And then, of course, the award partner, so Community Centres SA in this case, they're involved with it, looking over it as well. Then there's an executive panel. So I'm rambling a little bit, but it's just to give you an idea that there are so many people. There's about 30 plus people involved, and again, over that 4+ weeks. So it's a very rigorous process, and that's, I guess, why we end up with, you know, really great finalists, and why it is a really proven process, because there's so many hands involved.
I think it's so important that our sector and all of the other community sectors involved in the awards demonstrate that whilst we're working at the grassroots, and arguably we are the organisations that are closest to understanding community need, we are also incredibly professional in what we do. We will have all experienced times in our lives, for those of us that work in community services space, where we're kind of categorised as the warm and fluffy people, but it's the serious business side of things that are the ones that count. And for us as a peak, and I know the other organisations that are involved in the other awards, part of the reason why we're involved in these awards is because we want to demonstrate that what centres do, or in other award categories, what their nominees do, is incredibly meaningful from a community participation perspective, but it's also extremely professional. And one of the reasons we were really attracted to being part of these awards is that we know that judging process is incredibly rigorous. There is no room for, any kind of under the table sorts of, brown paper bag stuff. There's a lot of people that stick very closely to the criteria that we've established. And I know, because I was part of the judging panel along with, I can't remember, Josh, like you said, there's like 13 or 15 people from other organisations. The weekend that I went through all of the nominations, I spent most of the weekend in tears actually, because each of the stories are so wonderful and so heartfelt and really touching. It was joyous tears, not sad tears. But I really was blown away by the amount of rigour. And the other thing about the awards is that it really highlights what other organisations are doing. So it's a great learning experience, isn't it, Josh?
Yeah, that's right. It is interesting, and you get people from all different organisations really impressed with what people are doing. And to touch on your comment about being professional from a community sector standpoint, I'd go back to that with some stats actually. I don't want to bore people with too many stats, but out of all the award categories we had, Community Centres SA category, the loneliness cure, had the highest percentage of completion. So that means from people starting their form to actually submitting a final version, as Leighton and Marion MUGs nomination did, 78%, and our average is just under 50%. So you guys smashed it. Great job.
Yeah, that's great to hear. Leighton, I think all those phone calls that your centre would experience, and many other centres from Community Centres SA, sometimes you might think we're stalking you. But it's not really. It's because we take advocacy extremely seriously, and we know that we can't have a voice and we can't have a role at the table of governments and funders and philanthropists unless they have confidence that we understand the voice of the sector. And I, as the CEO, and my team aren't prepared to speak on behalf of the sector unless we regularly engage with you. So forgive us for those phone calls, but in this case, it translated into a very high number of people that ended up putting applications in, and it really allowed community centres to increase their status and their profile amongst many other organisations as well, who came to see what centres and neighbourhood houses do. Yeah.
Quickly add in, sorry, just quickly on that corporate versus community sector. Another thing that I think is really great about your award, and Leighton kind of might be able to speak on this as well, is that when a community centre wins or is even nominated for the award, that's not just celebrating the one person or the staff, it's actually everyone. It's the staff and the people involved in the community as well.
Yeah, that's right. It was, Lauren got on stage and talked about, her phrase was building connections is the answer. And you would have seen John, who came up on stage also, who was just part of the Marion MUGs. He was just over the moon. But so was the rest of the team also. Yeah, on the night, on the actual awards night, and we're not sure exactly how that's going to look this year in COVID, but it is a chance to glam up. I've got to bring out my sparkly dress. My husband was told to iron his suit. But there is, quite a few dignitaries there, Josh. There's a lot of television coverage leading up to the awards. It's quite a high-profile event, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. So in the video at the start that you showed, which was great, we had Mike Smithson, who from 7 News, was MC, and often it's either him or Jessica Adamson, the weekend presenter. And they fight over it on who wants to MC the event because they love it so much. But you're right, there is a lot of, obviously you're Kylie, the CEO of Community Centres SA, and so all the various organisations, their kind of big wigs are coming along, and also the government representatives and people like that. So it's a wonderful event because it's such a varied crowd, and it's really rare to have an event with that level of, you've got a lot of kind of people, dignitaries, as you said, and then we've got everyone in the community who's come and their mums and dads to support them and their friends and families. And it's just, you know, some people are like, oh, how's that work? But it just blends so well.
Yeah, it's an event for real people. It's actually not an event for, you know, CEs and those higher up the kind of food chain. It's actually an event for people who participate in great community projects. It's very grounding, the event. Josh, tell us a bit about the promotion leading up to the event too.
Yeah, so you touched on the TV coverage. The awards are backed by the Seven Network, so they you know, graciously provide excellent TV ad campaigns, which at the start of the program, they're coming up when we launch the nominations next Monday actually. That'll launch across the Seven Network to, I guess, tell people what categories are available and how to nominate in the awards in a really simple way. And then at the end of the program, there'll be another TV ad which is celebrating all the winners. And so Marion MUGs are featured in that ad that runs for, you know, up to 2 months after the gala dinner event. So it's really great. We get both sides, you know, telling people information, how to get involved, and then celebrating the winners and their kind of stories. That's really cool.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure Marion MUGs, the members of Marion MUGs Leighton, every time they see themselves or see their name on television, there's a bit of quick communication saying, we're on Channel 7 again last night.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's good buzz about that for sure. Pretty exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm thinking I'd really like us to see one of the little videos that we made with a couple of the nominees. I think we've got a video from Marion MUGs and maybe also the video from one of the other nominations as well. Scott or Kerry, behind the scenes, would you be able to bring up one of those, please?
So I'm just really keen to know, like, how long have you been coming to the group for?
Last year, from the last year.
So for the last year.
Yeah.
And what made you come along to this group?
Because I'm happy, can make friends and I like to come here, yeah. I like to come here, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's good.
Did you come every week?
Yes, every Monday and a little bit on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
I help out with the kitchen, I help out with the food court over there, setting up tables, and I do a lot of things around here for everybody.
Yeah.
I bring food in for the people sometimes.
And you've seen the amount of people growing that have been coming in?
Yes, I'm smashing the amount of people. It was only 2 before.
Yeah.
And then it got 3, then 4, and now we've got a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot of people.
So that was part of the entry, wasn't it, Leighton?
It was, yeah. Yeah, it's fills me a lot of pride seeing that. And John was one of the founding members of the group. He was actually sitting in the garden by himself for quite a while. You know, he just liked particularly coming, and we had a student on placement. I think it was back a few years ago, and we asked that student to kind of get alongside John and just talk to him about, you know, things he was interested in, and I guess cutting the long story short, as John said in the video there, it was you know, 2 people, then 4, and now it's lots, you know, in his words, and it was really about you know, that student, and then conversations with our leadership team about facilitating what might be possible in the space in terms of working with John as a local community member. What's his interest? What does he want to see? And then we were able to play a role in facilitating that.
So one of the messages, I think, Leighton, from the reason why Marion MUGs were winners, first, you can see, everyone can see, there wasn't particularly over the top in its execution of amazing video graphics or anything like that. It was just a very real introduction into who the group is. So that's a really strong message. This is not an awards program that is reliant upon money behind the nomination to shine. It doesn't have to be of a scale or a scope that's massive. And you know, there was something like, Josh, you might remember, but there was something like 60 or 70 nominations.
Yeah, there
last
were
year.
64 submitted nominations that were completely finished off and submitted through the judging panel. 82 in total, and that's what we arrived at that 78% completion, which is awesome. It's incredible completion rate. And 64 nominations, as you said in your speech on the awards night. We saw that at the start of this webinar. That was the highest we had submitted across any category. Only just, you got in there, snuck in there, but it was really great. And that was the first year of the award, which is fantastic achievement, and can't wait to see who's going to be nominated this year. And Leighton, what you touched on is just, you've covered so many reasons why it's a great opportunity for people to be nominated or to nominate their centre or their group.
Yeah, it's, we were so proud of that success in the numbers of nominations. It's actually not about the winning nomination. Really what this award's about, and why Community Centres SA ventured down this pathway, is because I and others, I got a bit of fire in my belly about the fact that, hang on a minute, this is the best sector in the universe, and we do not have any way of celebrating as a sector. We have our annual conference, which is a wonderful gathering of most of the centres and volunteers and board members and staff, but it's not celebratory. It's jam-packed full of information, and we do have a bit of fun. But most sectors, most professions get together and they party on and they pat each other on the back and they tell everyone how wonderful they are. We don't do that. We're all so busy doing and I thought, this is crazy. We really need a chance to shine and celebrate amongst ourselves, and for one night and for one awards period, kind of stick up our hands and say we really count in what we do. So that's why we wanted to become part of this awards night, and thankfully Community Achievement Awards take all the hard work off our hands. You run the whole awards program. All we have to do is remind centres and encourage centres and houses to apply, and then they reap the benefits of this. I would like us to show, if we can, I think we've got another video from one of the other nominations last year, Scott. Just like magic.
What do you think, Peter?
They're in the hills. What an amazing backdrop those guys have got.
Yeah, looks great.
The hills behind. They don't need some fancy Zoom meeting to stick a backdrop in behind. So again, another nomination that you can see was very simple in its I guess production. You don't even have to have a video, of course. Again, I was talking about the messaging about what the judge is looking for, and at the heart of it, it's around work that centres or houses do that connect people, and that's what they do best. And it's open to other organisations as well. We've got many other organisations involved in the nominations, and some of them were winners in the other category. Well, questions here. Maybe we can look at those. Amanda said, people that did not win last year told me winning was not as important as the recognition. Josh, have you got any comments on that? You would see lots and lots of organisations involved in these awards.
Yeah, definitely. And we do get a little bit of reluctance from some people who say, oh, I don't really want to nominate my friend or my family member, whoever it is, if they're not going to win. And I can understand why, and that's kind of what I touched on earlier about awards sometimes being seen, award programs, as for the highest level of achievement, and well, if you don't win, there's no value. But that's definitely not the case. So basically, there's a couple of key things I wanted to point out on why it's a good idea to nominate, especially for a community centre and their program. So, number one, we've kind of heard about the promotion that you can receive as a winner. But even if you're just nominated and the nomination doesn't progress down the judging, we do a media release to your local paper for every single nomination that's received. So that's a really cool way just to get your little story out to the paper, let people in your community know what you're doing, and they might want to come and be part of it as well. So that's a really good way to do it. And we also do, and especially with COVID, the situation, we're trying to share more social media real stories on our nominees. So we'll be also, if you're able to get your nomination in early, we'll have time to showcase your story on our Facebook pages and things like that. And it's another way to get great community recognition. So you will be recognised regardless of where you place in a judging scenario. And another thing, actually, Leighton, you touched on this really well. I might have to try and get your words, watch back and steal them for a future reference. But the reflection that a community centre, a business, whoever it is that's applying, can get on themselves by applying. They're jotting down everything. They're having to answer questions on what they do well, the impact that they have, and all of a sudden you've got this great document and even just learnings, and you might uncover things. Oh, we actually are doing this A, B, and C. We didn't even realise, and that's a really nice thing to do. And Leighton's got this video now as part of the nomination. That's this lovely thing you can show people when they ask, "Oh, what is Marion MUGs about?" You can then show them this video now, and it just sums it up because it's a real story from a real person, from John, and it's had a huge impact in his life. And that's a really good thing as well, to reflect on what you're doing, and then those learnings for staff, for the community members, that's just really important. And finally, celebration. How nice for you to be able to tell your community members, the people you're helping out, staff, is, hey, I've nominated us because I think we do a great job. And I think we make a difference to people's lives. And not, as Australians, sometimes we struggle to take compliments. And so that's almost like a way where we're saying, look, we are great. We've been nominated, and I want to celebrate that. So there's a whole, bunch of ways, tangible and intangible, that it's really important to nominate and celebrate what you're doing.
Yeah, you've just nailed some, at the very heart of why we want support centres to nominate. The point you made, Josh, about then having a piece of information. It might be a video, it might be the words you've used in the submission, but that's those words often that when you go through that intellectual process of having to translate what you feel in here to something that you've written, that's sometimes difficult to do. And to then have achieved those written words, you can use that time and time again in other grant applications. You could put them on a poster in your community centre. You could put them in your annual report. You could use it to talk to your board about why you do what you do. They become words that you can speak over and over and over again, because, so often we see that centres and houses are so amazing in what they do, but they often don't tell their story. That's why we're putting a lot of effort into things like the awards and Facebook and other social media, because we want to support centres to tell their story, because their story is so amazing. Kerry, I don't know if you're online. Kerry's our business manager at Community Centres SA. There is a question that I'm hoping you can answer. The question was... Here she is. Last year, CCSA staff helped to write nominations. Is that service going to be offered again this year?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's one of the favourite things that staff get to do, because once you get to talk to our members, you actually, just like you were saying, Kylie, it's one of the best parts about our job. Like, they're the easiest conversations to have, because I think that our members don't understand exactly how awesome they are. So the great thing is that staff at CCSA can help write those nominations, but then there's also the support of Awards Australia that they will also help with that as well. So you can always just start off the nomination. If you get stuck, like, CCSA will be there to help, but also team members. Hannah, I think her name is, that is looking after the event in South Australia this year, that she will be part of this journey with us as well, because it is really just about celebrating. And I just think that centres, particularly over the last couple of months with the COVID-19 stuff that's been going on. I'm completely in awe of how the centres have just adapted so quickly and how they've made sure that all of their communities are still being connected with in a different way. And stuff that they would just go, when I talk to them, just take it for granted because they're just like, it's what we do, Kerry. It's not what everybody does, and it's what sets community centres apart from everyone else.
Thank you, Kerry. I'm assuming either our technology is working or you're still in your pajamas, one or the other, but we can't see you.
I didn't put my video on, but I will pop in and say hello because I'm not in my pajamas. So, yes, no. So I was here. I was just talking like magic.
Shame on me. The whole team are always, you know, we Zoom each other all the time from about 8:30 in the morning. I've never ever caught anyone in their PJs yet. They've caught me in mine, but not vice versa.
No, you will catch me in my slippers, but not my PJs. Yeah.
Thank you, Kerry. Josh, is that correct? I'm assuming that Hannah and the team are also there to support centres in the nominations with any questions.
Yeah, that's definitely correct. So Hannah, she is the event manager of the whole program. She makes everything tick along. I'm just there trying to take credit for it. But Hannah's the one, she's the cog. And also there's Tori in our team as well. And she's the coordinator. So those two look after a lot of the nitty-gritty stuff. And if you call up or email us, you can expect that one of those will respond. But I'll be available as well. There's a few other team members who I'm happy to chip in because we look the same as what Kerry said. Like echo her sentiments. It's one of the great parts of our job to talk to those people and hear from them. And one thing we offer is if you've got your nomination ready to submit and you want someone else to read over it, you can send it to us before you press that submit button and ask us to read over it, have any suggestions, and sometimes we'll notice something, question 5 kind of doubles up with what you wrote in question 3, maybe try something else. So we provide that feedback and trying to provide tips all the time, and people can jump on our Facebook page as well, the South Australian Community Achievement Awards. We post often little updates, tips on how to boost your submission, and I dare say people can reach out to Leighton now as the inaugural winner for a few tips.
Leighton's always
submission.
Yeah, very welcome to,
yeah. Josh, we really appreciate that support. We know you guys are so busy. It is a national awards program. You're rolling them out in all the states, and it's an awful lot of projects that are coming through your system. Someone's in the Q&As has said that some centres have told me that they got new customers after the award. People were told about the centre by others who had heard about the nomination. So that's, I guess, the power of, the marketing, isn't it?
That's right, and word of mouth. I'm interested to hear from Leighton actually if, post winning that award or even just, celebrating you became a semi-finalist, that kind of thing, if any of the participants went out and told people they knew, oh, this is pretty cool, we actually won, in this award, and that's another powerful word of mouth as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, certainly the group has grown from word of mouth, but post the award, that I think probably one of the great things about this award is the recognition or the story to share with the wider community who may not be aware, perhaps, of what happens at our centre or other community centres. And so, if people do have busy lives, which is fair enough, but to say, we were part of this award process and we actually won, and so people just kind of in their busy lives kind of stop. Wow, that's great, and then they're kind of, what's this about? They take a bit more time to dive in a bit deeper and understand. So sort of from friends and family and neighbours and things like that, there's been it's really been an encouraging time to share about that.
I think it's important to note that this award category is open to any organisation that has worked and is committed to addressing social isolation. And many nominees from last year were from other organisations. It's not just targeted at community centres. Of course, we are the peak organisation for 108 centres, and so hence, I suppose, the conversation today to encourage centres to apply, but at the same time, no centre does what it does without many partnerships with a range of other organisations You know, they might be churches, they might be disability organisations, they may be domestic violence organisations, they may be other peak bodies, schools, etc., etc. So all centres work very closely at a community level with a range of organisations committed to addressing social isolation. So for those of you that are online this morning, this award by no means is intended to be exclusive just to centres and to houses. And in fact, some of the winners last year, the runners-up, were not community centres and houses. So I reckon time is nearly finished once again. I think, Joshua and Leighton, I'm going to pose a question for you. I didn't tell you I was going to ask you this, but I think it's worth considering, and that is, with COVID, we have learned a lot about connectedness through other forms of connection which are not face-to-face. We've had to be agile and we've had to adapt to a new world. And within our commitment to continuing to foster connections, we've learned about the power of the digital world. And I've seen many amazing projects come about as a consequence. So I'm expecting some nominations that may not be our traditional form of connection projects, that aren't face-to-face, and I'd really like to encourage those projects, because in many ways we've shown that social connection over different forms of technology is just as effective. It's not for everyone, of course, but it has been incredibly effective and another way of reaching people. I don't know if either of you have got any comments about that.
Yeah, I do. Do you want to go first, Josh, or I can go?
Yeah, you jump in, Leighton.
I feel really fortunate, I guess, you know, to have the board members that we do at MarionLIFE, and one of the discussions we had quite early, you know, going back to sort of mid-March, with particularly our marketing or our public image board member, was to reflect on who we are. So that's our mission and vision. And even if we're not able to do things that in the way that we were, that doesn't change who we are. And I think that really set the tone for us over the last few months, and potentially, you know, the centres on the line listening at the moment about their nomination, maybe it's a chance to tell some of those stories about how they continued to be the same organisation with the same heart, even though they had to adjust how that happened. And I know for us, you know, a number of our participants are digitally disconnected, and Lauren and others in our team have been working to make sure they're not socially disconnected. And I think, you know, the chance to document those stories, because there'll be hundreds of those, you know, across the state. So yeah, I mean, my encouragement would be to take up the opportunity to share what you've been doing and how you've continued to be who you are.
I think that sounds really great, Leighton, and yeah, I'm excited to see nominations just like that you talked about, that how they're staying true to their mission and their purpose in these trying times. And just like to remind people as well that the nomination period runs through to August. So feel free to discuss projects you've got coming up, and you can edit your submission right before the closing date. So you might say, we're launching so-and-so project, and then you might do an update to say this is how it's gone. Also, the span of the achievements, if you will, or the you know, information you're covering can be about 12 months from last year, you know, from middle of last year towards the end of last year. So you can feel free to mention stuff that's not necessarily right now. You know, you could talk about a project you had in the back end of 2018. Sorry, 2019. Get my years confused. Yeah, so there's heaps of different ways for people to nominate, to be involved, to discuss how they're keeping that social kind of interaction going during this time. So yeah, I'm really excited, and I think that even though it is tough, that potentially that will only make the nominations more incredible, the stories even more inspirational.
Great. Josh, when does it formally open? When does the awards nomination period formally open?
Yep, good question. So 1st of June is the open date, and you know, we're all about being sneaky in a good way. So if you want early information, if you've got questions, you can get involved now. You can register your interest with us. SACAA@awardsaustralia.com. The easiest email address. That's SA Community Achievement Awards. That's the abbreviation. That's the car. You can get in touch with us. Head to awardsaustralia.com. Read up about the different categories on offer, and you can start thinking now. Like I said, if you're really keen, you can register interest with us, and we can get things rolling straight away. 1st of June is when they officially open, and they run through until the 11th of August.
Great, and we'll certainly be posting very soon all of the information that people need to know to then press that button, start the process, and by all means, anyone that's even got a germ of an idea and you're not really sure where to take it, contact us or contact Community Achievement Awards or even contact Leighton. Start to think about it, start to allow that germ to kind of grow a bit, because I'm quite sure that germ of a project is actually one that's incredibly worthy as a nomination, and we would love to see it. Josh, thank you. So nice to see you again, and we look forward to seeing you more over this awards period. And Leighton, again, as always, lovely to see you. Say good day to all the team of Marion MUGs back there for us.
Yeah, will do. Thank you. Thanks, Josh.
Thanks, Leighton, and you've inspired me with your background.
Yes, let's go for it. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Thanks. See ya.
Thank you.
Bye.